I want to break down another idea that just floated up in my head. Um, I want to explain at least why I think weakness. Maybe I'm wrong, but I want to capture my current framing of this. Why do I hate weakness? Um, this is something in general. I just hate all forms of. I hate if you've ever spoken to me, if you've in the last few years or whatever, you would notice that I attribute all bad things um, generally to a form of weakness or some form of weakness. And to me, this is the root um, cause of all issues, all suffering, all problems that could ever exist in our lives. And, or whatever. Um, Maybe almost to a pathological extent, I hate weakness. So I want to try to capture why that is, and or one of the reasons for why that is. I feel like there's a lot, but I want to go for explain one that I just figured out now. Um, and it goes something along the lines of when we have interpersonal connections with people, um, when we interact with people or interact with one another or something, generally we process things in the exchange. So, for example, we have person A and person B, and we exchange ideas, we exchange thoughts or whatever. And okay, and as we do so, usually the thing that kind of is connected to the previous point that I've explained um, in the previous video. When someone has low intelligence, which is a form of weakness, am gonna delve in and explain why, but first of all, I'm gonna outline it. So, someone, when we're exchanging, the extent to which, or the efficiency to which our exchange happens, is governed by your ability to convey ideas and their ability to understand ideas or their desire to do so. So you might be the best, most intelligent person at explaining things, but if you're explaining it to a retard, there's going to be a hard limit to how they can understand or interpret it. For example, you have someone who's self-conscious who has a very, I don't know, negative self-view, and you tell them a compliment, they're incapable of taking that compliment positively. They're always going to project their own self view onto it, and they're gonna think that you're insulting them or hurting them, right? Uh, it's irrelevant to the intention behind it. They're gonna um, override whatever the intention was with their perception, right? That's why it's so frustrating talking to stupid people. They do this all the time. Um, so in this exchange, when people talk to each other, your intelligence becomes the efficiency at which these can be interpreted. Um, and I specifically want to focus on interpreted because a lot of people say, well, a lot of responsibility lies on the deliverer. I actually don't think that is true because that is an unreasonable expectation. Yes, as long as you convey the words properly, you're not speaking fucking, I don't know, a different language to them and then they don't understand, then yeah, of course, it's never gonna work out. But if you're, how should I say, at least mediocre at conveying the ideas, there's this concept, okay, fuck it, I'm gonna explain how learning works because you don't even understand this, which makes it impossible to explain this nuance. So learning, how does learning work? Learning. A lot of you have gone to school or universities and you believe learning is just this mindless consumption of information. I'll sit through this lecture, oh, I will watch this video, I will listen to this podcast, and I will learn something. No, that is not learning. You're delusional and you're wrong. Learning process looks more like um, testing and verifying your previous belief. I don't know if I spelled it correct, and I also don't care. What do I mean by that? For example, I believe that, I don't know. Let's say someone puts forward an idea I have never considered, right? Someone tells me some physics concept, some Einstein shit, like, oh my god, light, or okay, I'm not gonna go into that. They put me a concept, and it doesn't matter how well they present it. I need to engage with it to be able to learn something from it. I need to address my previous belief and uh, ask questions or challenge them to be able to update that belief. So learning is a process of forming beliefs and or updating your old ones. That is what learning is. And how do you engage with that process? You challenge your previous idea. So in context of a lecture, that would be something like the lecture might be a stream of information, and then you need to go through an internal monologue, internal dialogue with your previous understanding of it and challenge it and be like, this person is saying that um, atoms are made of protons, electrons, neutrons. That's very interesting. I hadn't considered that. What does that mean? Um, what does that look like? So learning always goes hand in hand with asking questions or challenging, because asking questions is a form of challenging your understanding. It's metaphysically, or I'm not going to use metaphysically because you probably don't even understand what that means. In practice, it's uh, asking questions is the form of challenging your understanding, or it's the main tool to do so. It's the main form in which it happens, and in some way or another, you're asking questions to try to correct or form an understanding. Okay, so learning is that. So when person A and person B are speaking, responsibility does not lie on person B to convey it in the most palpable way to person A. The responsibility lies on the receiver to try to interpret it and ask follow-up questions where they to make sure that they have understood it the way person B has meant it. And if person B is refusing to engage in that process, then yes, the problem is of person B for not delivering their idea. But if you do this thing where you're just like starfishing, what I mean is like you're literally idle, you're not fucking contributing any questions, you're not challenging your understanding, and you're just hoping that this person explains everything to you, you are the problem. And uh, so in that sense, communication between people is never the responsibility of the person who's delivering. It's always the responsibility of the person who's interpreting. That's who the torchbearer is on communications. It's like you're playing football, right? And this person has just shot a ball towards you, and now you have the ball. You're in possession of the ball. You need to pass it back and be and clarify whether you've understood the idea correctly with them. You can't have the ball and expect them to kick the ball again. Like, do you understand how intellectually lazy that is? Right? So the responsibility lies on the person receiving, not on the deliverer. To a very small extent on the deliverer, 90% on the receiver. Because they are the ones in the position of leverage. It's unreasonable to ask the deliverer to explain things a million different times if you're not engaging with them. It's gonna be fruitless, by the way. Complete waste of time. Right. That's what learning is. You guys probably didn't even understand what that fucking was, right? And why do I hate weakness? Or how does it come into the original point? When two people are engaging and one of them is stupid, they're incapable or unwilling to engage in this process, generally because of a form of weakness. And that could be in a form of denial, like yeah, you're playing some games like oh it's not that important, blah blah blah, or it could be in a form of avoiding pain, avoiding effort, thinking, oh, this is too much effort, too much yapping, I can't be bothered, why is he thinking about this? Um, Another is realizing that challenging your beliefs requires a real confrontation with self, which is inherently difficult, something that a weak person cannot do. By definition, to me, a weak person is someone who is unwilling to confront themselves. And here comes the thing. If one of these people are weak, then they are incapable of exchanging. It ends up completely one-sided. Person B understands everything that person A says, um, because they actually challenge their understanding and they're capable of learning. They have intelligence, they're strong intellectually. And then person A is incapable of processing everything that B person says, or it goes through a massive filter and it or to a much lesser extent. And I hate things that block exchanges between people because they are fundamentally the things that prevent us from understanding each other and forming strong, good connections. And maybe the reason why I hate stupidity and weakness so much is because maybe subconsciously I feel resentment towards everyone around me for being incapable of engaging in meaningful discussions with me. I feel isolated. Um, I wouldn't even, I wouldn't say I feel isolated. I don't get to have meaningful relationships with people because it's like trying to speak to an animal. Intellectually, there's that big of a difference. And the reason why there's such a big of a difference is because they generally are not open to challenging their worldview. And a lot of people have, how should I say, and this is something that's pretty ironic that has come up in a couple of conversations where, again, they do this, what was it? How did I name it? View projection manipulation. So, what I have observed is a strong indicator of when this is happening is you're talking to someone, you're trying to get to the bottom of things, you're trying to figure things out, and they start obstructing it and they start throwing in a lot of things that do not contribute to the resolution of the misunderstanding. And anyone that is not doing that is, um, well, actively contributing to misunderstandings. They don't want to understand you. And what I've heard things like thrown out, which I find pretty ironic, kind of funny, um, is if you try to, let's say you are trying to convey your point and you're not being understood, and they are conveying their point, and let's say you have already understood it, and your point is actually a response that covers this point, right? What I have found to often occur is they will just keep pushing for the same types of points that show a lack of understanding of your initial point. So when you are talking to someone, exchanging with someone, you should make an effort to understand where they're coming from first, and then try to change or argue with them. Because it is completely fruitless trying to argue with someone that you do not understand. Because if you do not understand them, then what the fuck do you know to advise them on anything? You don't. If you don't understand them, shut the fuck up. You have nothing to offer. It's like imagine you are some I don't know. You've spent 10 years trying to um learn something you've actually been learning something for a really long time, blah blah blah, and you have developed a high degree of expertise or mastery in a specific niche. Let's say even though even this just because you spend a long time on something and you have on paper become an expert doesn't mean that you know what the fuck you're talking about. If that was true, then the world would be a different place. But unfortunately, no. Just because you go to school and you get some fucking paper that says you're an expert on something doesn't mean jack shit in practice. Are you more likely to be knowledgeable in something? Yeah, probably. To a large degree? Yeah, probably. Is it a guarantee? No. Is it the end all? No. Right? Whatever. But let's say there's something you are very competent in. I'm not saying that you're Superman, but you are competent. You know what the fuck you're talking about. And someone comes in and just starts spewing some random shit, and they know fuck all about it. What is the point for you to even consider their opinion if they don't even understand the baseline that they would need to be able to have insight into what you're saying? And vast majority of people speak before they think. And that's why they offer insight that is worthless. They just spew some random shit and think that they give themselves a pat on the back, like, yeah, that told them, and continue their day. Complete, utter, disgusting incompetence. And the reason why people engage in this way, they're kind of like shout at people and then close their ears when a counterpoint comes out, is because it prevents them from feeling inadequate and challenging their world view. And what you will find is if you keep pushing for trying to understand and trying to convey your idea, what you'll find is they will eventually come to a point where you kind of break them a little bit. And what they start doing is just either admitting that they don't know what the fuck they're talking about, but you're wrong anyway, or they will start saying things like, "Ah, oh, you're so ignorant," which is kind of funny because it's complete hypocrisy. It's completely opposite. They are unwilling to engage in challenging their beliefs, and you are not willing to get brute forced into adopting theirs, and because of that, you are the closed-minded retard or whatever, which is completely a projection of what they're doing. For them to be able to offer something, they need to understand you. Unless someone understands you, you have no incentive to think or listen to what they're saying. So, if someone responds too quickly, that's also an indicator that they haven't thought about what you have said. And if they seem to be repeating the same thing, either that means that you're not listening to them and you're not understanding what they're saying, or you have broken them. It's one of those two things. There's no specific rule for this because this can get taken out of context really hard, and you will never know who's. Uh, like if a really stupid person was to listen to this and listen to this advice, then they're just going to use that to justify themselves being stupid even more. Is that on me? No, completely not. Fuck off. Whatever, I'm not going to explain it further. So, I hate weakness because it makes it impossible to create meaningful connections with people. It is the greatest obstacle to connecting with people. And the more um, I'm becoming more and more convinced of this through every single interaction I have. And let's try to understand why people reject this and why I attribute it to weakness. I think that people are, I think I've already said it, they're just scared of confronting their inadequacy. They are most likely terribly wrong in something, and even that realization is gonna hurt their self-worth. And to me, to be strong is to be able to uh, not attach your self-worth to how perceived you are, but to if you're actually correct or not. If that makes sense. It's like an allegiance to truth and progress. And weak people are allergic to truth because truth exposes them. Imagine if you are, I don't know, you cheated on your partner, let's say, right? And I was to say, I'm going to reveal the truth. Are you going to be positively or negatively engaged with that? Are you gonna love the fact that everyone's gonna know of all the disgusting things you have done? Or I forgot if I said, are you going to be angry or are you going to be thrilled about this, right? So, based on who you are, changes how you react to the truth. And generally, bad or weak people hate the truth, and strong people can face the truth even if they have done some uh, um, ugly things. And weak people cannot take that because that's, I don't know, it hurts their position or whatever in society or their own self-interpretation, whatever the fuck. And so to me, inability to engage with this is always going to come down to whether you're looking for the truth or not. And another thing, why I call it weakness and not some other word, is the closer allied to the truth you are, the more you engage with things that are real and tangible and actually work. So if you are um, trying something and nothing works and you're forever stuck and nothing seems to change from your actions, then you're probably trying the wrong things. And why are you trying the wrong things? You're probably lying to yourself. For example, some people like to have this notion that they are talented and they're little geniuses. But when it comes to, and they're just not motivated. You know what? Fuck it. I would say I fall under this category. This is something close to me. Um, well, you're such a talented person. If you were to do this, you would completely dominate. You'll beat everyone, my um beautiful snowflake or whatever. But uh, you will never see these people actually going out there and collapsing that possibility, not verifying that with reality. They'll never go and actually challenge someone because they know that their confrontation with reality has a chance, has only a possibly negative connotation, as in a negative result. As in, imagine if in my head I am such an impenetrable, undefeatable, defeated, 100% win rate, uh, most talented person ever, right? If and my brain, how does my brain interpret that? It interprets that I am this. And any confrontation with reality, can it give me a better result than this? No, it can't. If I win another battle, I'm not gonna get 101 win rate percent. I'm gonna still have 100. And that means that if I were to confront myself with reality, I only have something to lose. And it creates like a glass castle. Except for it's not really a castle, it's a fucking a fart in the middle of nowhere because it doesn't actually exist. It only exists in your mind, this image that you are so beautiful. That's why people hate the idea of getting rejected. That's why people hate the idea of going into places where they're not dominant. They are scared of crushing their mental model of who they are. They're scared of reality putting them in their place. And to me, that's a form of weakness. Delusion is a form of weakness. And it holds people back from actually realizing their potential. Let's say you are someone extremely talented, right? First of all, this whole idea about 100% win rate, that's just completely like, if you think in categories like win rate or whatever, you have it all wrong. You have it all completely wrong. Like you have your priorities completely fucked up. Like you think of life in terms of this collector's edition, perfectionist mindset, which is so far from like truth. Like real strength is ugly, it is dirty, it is sweaty and bloody or whatever. It's not aesthetic. You have subscribed to aesthetics, and that in itself is like a disease, right? So first of all, just get rid of that. This whole undefeated, no one can touch me, blah blah blah. the little stories that you tell yourself to raise your self-worth. There's no truth in that. There is no reality in that. Um, so on a real path of that, you need to first of all forfeit that because by trying, you're already risking it, and you need to actually focus on developing competencies and competencies, real competencies, not ones that you have imagined or perceived. Real tangible things that result um in wins. Whatever, I'm not here to explain that further. So that's complete Delulu, this whole fantasy. I can do it, I just don't want to. It's like you are not a product. You are not your imagination. You are who you are. How should I say? Yes, in your imagination, you might have a castle in the sky, but if you live in an apartment with your neighbors screaming or whatever, with paper thin walls, then that is who you are. You're not the person who lives in a castle in the sky. You're not fucking Dracula. Uh, you are Bob Smith or whatever. That's you. And if you can't face that, then that's a form of weakness. And if a person is not willing to confront that, they are going to be unreachable. And I'm sorry to tell you, but I would say in all of the people that I have interacted, I wouldn't consider, how should I say, there's maybe one person that I would consider to be reachable, but I maybe I haven't just had any real confrontational discussions with them. Like we aligned on most things to begin with, so they were pretty intelligent to begin with. But I would say zero people have been reachable through my conversations. Like maybe to some small extent, if you appeal to their little castle in the sky, to their little fantasy, maybe you can have some impact on them. But I don't consider that to be reachable. That's still completely delulu, and you're just playing into their delusions to somehow manipulate them into changing. That's still an unreachable person. That's a completely lost person. Um, and I don't know how this has been throughout history. I don't think this problem is probably a new problem. But in gen, or if it's even a problem, I don't know. But yeah. So this is my take. I hate weakness because you can't fucking reach people. You can't connect with them. You can't build meaningful exchanges because they are so scared of losing this fucking imaginary castle. They're so caught up in this imaginary castle that they are unwilling to make steps towards actually obtaining a real castle. And it's painful interacting with people like that. It is so disheartening. It is so demotivating. It just drains the life out of me. And I, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm also to some degree like this. I don't know. But this has been my experience. And I hate weakness because that is what I blame for this. I blame the pain that I experience when I interact with people on this. Um, I want to expand a little bit on the interacting with people idea, or and how intelligence also affects that. Like generally, to understand other people, you need to be pretty intelligent. You can't just be a fucking, I don't know, soap eater or whatever the fuck, and hope that you will build meaningful connections with people by some fucking miracle. Like maybe you can have, because of locality or by proxy, create things that look like meaningful connections, but it's the kind of shit where you think that you have a lot of friends when you're in high school, and then you go to university and you realize that none of those friendships meant anything. Like you were just in a group together, and because of that, you were by friends by proxy. You're not real friends. You never really meant anything to each other, outside of just local protection or whatever, local grouping. And the reason why you can't build those connections is because for you to build those connections, you need to, how should I say, understand who the people around you are. And if you're not intelligent, you cannot do that. You simply can't do that by definition. If intelligence is understanding things correctly, then by like refusing to do that, you're refusing to understand people around you. You're refusing to engage with the world around you. You're refusing to see people for who they are. And in doing that, you lose the ability to have connections outside of these superficial proxy connections. How are you supposed to be say that you're connected to someone if you don't even know who the fuck they are? You can't. And how do we learn who people around us are? We do it by thinking about them and analyzing their behaviors to come up to having the most accurate model we can and refining it over and over and over so that we understand who are the other animals that we um, are in company of. And that could be something as simple as you have said something that was uncharacteristic of you. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Let me think why they think this. This seems, oh my god, I'm about to crash out to just thinking about this. This seems like such a primitive thing. It's like I'm speaking to 6-year-olds or something. Oh, someone has done something uncharacteristic. Maybe before you judge them and completely try to force your understanding of who they are, maybe you take fucking 5 minutes to think why and where they're coming from. Not that they've suddenly converted to Satan or whatever the fuck. Maybe, okay, I will give a little nugget of knowledge. There is no such thing as irrational people. Nobody acts in a way that they think is irrational. There is no such thing as true mental illness. It just doesn't exist. This is just a construct that's retarded. Everyone acts in what they believe to be the most rational, reasonable, useful, or whatever um, set of actions in the moment. And they might have values that you think are irrational. For example, they got angry and felt the need to crash out and beat someone up, and then they're in jail, and you're like, well, that's objectively irrational because if they didn't act out their emotions, then they wouldn't be in jail. Ha 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 ha. You're wrong because in the moment, and even the person who's in jail might admit, yeah, fuck, if I didn't beat them up, maybe I wouldn't be in jail. Fuck me. But in that moment, they felt maybe rage and anger, and to them, maybe I don't know, whatever. Let's say the disrespect that they felt was a strong attack on their sense of self, and if they were to cross that line of self-respect and like just not respond to that, then maybe that would lessen them as a human in their own eyes. So their aggressive response was actually a way of protecting their identity, protecting themselves, and or whatever. There's just some trivial example I've thought up, right? So in that sense, they might not even have the self-awareness, but in the moment, their reaction was completely rational in the context that they have considered at that moment. Would they still do the same thing if they considered the broader context? Like, oh, then I have to spend 3 months in prison. Well, maybe it's not worth that. Maybe that is even more uh cost, right? But that's probably not something that was in their context. That wasn't something in their information sample when they were making that decision. So based on the information that they had, they acted rational, and then when they exited that, they had more time to consider their context and put more things into that, and then say, "Oh yeah, that was irrational." But in their judgment in that moment, that was rational, and everyone always acts in the way that they think is best. Always. The only difference between uh, people is how they weigh things and what things they even consider, or how much details they even have in their context. Let's say that. For example, I could tell you, oh, putting all your money into Bitcoin is irrational, financially irresponsible. But what if I know some crazy pump is going to happen. I don't know. I have some insider context. I'm a time traveler. We're gonna go that crazy. I'm a time traveler, and I know Bitcoin is gonna go to some crazy price, and right now it's worth 1 million Bitcoin can buy me a pizza or something. I don't know, some whatever memes there are, right? Uh, I have that information, I have that context. Is it rational for me to put all my money into Bitcoin, knowing fine well guaranteed that it will go up? I'll let you think about that. And let's say I don't have that context, and I don't know what the fuck Bitcoin is gonna have, and I don't know like what's gonna happen in the future, and I don't have expertise to make that judgment. Is it then irresponsible to put all my money and sell my house to buy Bitcoin? I'll let you think about that, right? So this whole idea that there are people that act against their own interests, blah blah blah, they don't exist. That is just false. You're just wrong. And everyone acts always in their interests. You just need to understand that they calculate those interests differently. Someone, I don't know. Whatever. I'm not even gonna elaborate that. You can think about that yourself, right? So, why was I explaining this? I forgot. Damn. I got triggered by something. I don't remember what it was. So you're exchanging with people. Yeah, I don't know. It's not coming back. I didn't bother holding the context in my head. Unlucky. So what is the idea I was just working on? Explaining. It's irrational to. No, it's no one's ever irrational. They just have limited context. Um, I don't remember why I wanted to explain this, but the slightly bigger idea I was trying to get into is all forms of pathological behavior, all forms of what we consider to be mental illness are completely rational responses based on the worldview that we have. It's not this whole idea that it's like, oh my God, this person has. Okay, chemicals do matter. Chemical imbalances do affect the way our thought decisions flow. But attributing things directly to genetics, chemical imbalances is extremely flawed because those chemical imbalances are formed by our thought patterns. It's like a self-reinforcing thing. Chemicals affect your thought patterns, and your thought patterns form your what chemicals are being triggered to release. But still, what is more core is the original thoughts. You might have, how should I say, the chemical imbalances are physical representation of the system that you have inside of your brain, and those are self-programmed, or not self-programmed. Um, they're capable of being self-programmed. I don't know why I wanted to explain this though. Uh, I don't know. I don't remember. Why did I think this was interesting in this context? You speak to people, you need to think about what they're thinking to understand them. Okay, yes, and it's important to understand that whatever they did wasn't a mistake on their behalf, it was a product of what they thought was the best course of actions. And people they don't make mistakes, they make choices that they think is best from the context that they have available. So by thinking about other people, and when someone acts in an uncharacteristic way, it doesn't mean that they made a mistake. It doesn't mean that they did it's like a brain misfire moment. No, it is always a product of the system that they have, the thought patterns that they have. There's no such thing as mistakes. People don't make mistakes. Um, and even if there's something uncharacteristic, this whole idea that, oh, exception that proves the rule or whatever. If something is an exception when it comes to people, that exception is equally as important as the rest of the data. In fact, by looking at those exceptions, you generally get to have more intimate understanding of people's psychology. Instead of just letting things slide and being like, oh my god, why did he crash out? Maybe if you actually try to understand the components of what made them crash out, you will have a way better understanding of that person. So every single conflict, every single time where someone gets like a strong reaction and it seems uncharacteristic, just by thinking about why, you will learn really a lot about those people. And that's kind of the secret to um, being able to read people. You just pay a lot of attention to them and analyze every single moment that goes outside of your expectation for them. And over time, you refine your model to be more and more and more and more accurate. And uh, how do you know if you're delusional or not? How do you verify? You just, or at least this is what I've been doing, and some people have asked me this question, like, how do you do this? Or what makes you think that you're so intelligent? I make simple theses, I make simple predictions for patterns of behavior that people will produce or responses that they will have for things that I will throw in. And I see how close I am on different aspects of my understanding about them based on how close their responses are to what I have predicted. And if people act exactly the way I expected them to, then I can say that, yeah, I'm not delusional. Like, my understanding of them seems fairly accurate because there's this data to suggest that. So you can only argue that you understand someone else if you can actually read their patterns of behavior. If you don't understand their patterns of behavior and you're like, oh, I don't understand why they're doing something, you're the stupid one. If everything seems irrational to you, then you are the stupid one. If the world is this big confusing thing and nothing makes sense, you are stupid. You just haven't picked up on the rules of it yet. And if you keep trying to look for it, you will find them. Okay. So we've added the delusion check. We've added the why do I hate weakness? But yeah, that's the key thing. So maybe on a like slightly more emotional or whatever side, maybe I feel like the weakness of just people as a whole uh has stripped me from the ability from forming meaningful connections with them. And this is something that um I think uh, maybe it affects me more than I would like to admit. I don't know. This is something I need to like. If I analyze the things I'm feeling right now, yeah, I don't fucking feel anything, right? But logically, that would actually check out. Like maybe I'm just so disappointed and I blame weakness of those people for uh my inability to form those meaningful, beautiful connections. Maybe I'm running away from something. I don't know. And I definitely can. I'm open to that idea. Okay, I think that explains it fairly well. Goodbye.